All right, hi guys. You see a wonderful man on your screen right now. This is Kinney County Sheriff Brad Coe. Hi, Sheriff. Thanks for taking some time today.
How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm doing well. You know, Texas just has a certain Texas feel about it. It's just lovely today, isn't it?
Well, it's a great day outside. It's warm. It's sunny. Everybody's happy. We're just dreading. Hopefully, it won't get cold.
Yeah, but that's coming. I've seen the weather forecast, my friend.
It's probably coming.
It's inevitable. But the other thing that's really inevitable is that the border crossings are going to keep happening. People are going to continue to end up in Kinney County here. So let's talk about that. You saw the title there, you guys, that said that the sheriff was deputizing some people. This I saw you guys were doing a live stream about a month ago. Am I correct to say
It's been a month, yeah, 6 weeks or so.
Okay, so about 6 weeks. You came out and you were like, you know what, we're taking matters into our own hands at this point because really we need help. You know, we're not against immigration. We're a nation of that. But if we're going to have this happening, we need supplemental resources. Right. So talk a little bit about 6 weeks ago where we were, and then we'll go into where we are today.
Okay, about 6 weeks ago, we're still seeing the influx of illegal aliens walking through the properties, tearing up stuff, breaking into homes on the ranches.
Like, okay, so sorry to interrupt. At what rate is this more? Can we explain? You know, last year this is what we saw. This year this is where we are, so people can have some perspective. Because everybody kind of assumes, well, you guys get it every year,
right?
So where were we at last year comparatively?
Last year, I'd really have to go through, bring up some numbers and stuff. But last year we saw an increase in alien smuggling, human smuggling, and illegal aliens walking through private property. Okay. We put out back in April. We went into an emergency declaration because we'd seen the increase, which usually happens, but the numbers from Border Patrol last year versus the year before, 1.7 million, was a huge increase, most in recorded history since I can remember back in '85. So we were seeing that increase. I was getting more phone calls. We were seeing more pictures. We were getting more complaints. So we took the step, created an emergency declaration, see if we could get some help from the state.
Now that was a county declaration. When was that?
That was back in April this year.
Okay.
Well, we saw an increase in human smuggling. My deputies. So we were catching 2-3 loads sometimes a day. Well,
how many people roughly? 10, 20, 30?
Sometimes there's, one smuggler and 3 people. Sometimes there's one smuggler and 15.
Okay.
We had a huge number of pursuits. They're driving through the fences. Well,
and that's really dangerous for your civilians.
Yes.
When the pursuits happen, because that can create danger in the surrounding and for people driving by and in their ranches, etc.
And they're being passed on the left, being passed on the right. They're trying to get out of the way. So the pursuits, in a law enforcement career, you're going to see 1, 2, maybe 5 pursuits in your 20-year career. When my deputies are seeing 2 and 3 a day, it's outrageous.
2-3 pursuits a day that could have a smuggler and 3 people or a smuggler and 15.
Right.
That's what you're saying?
The number of stolen vehicles was astronomical for us. 1 or 2 a year versus all of a sudden we have 12 or 15 in a single year.
How many people live in Kinney County, roughly?
3,600.
Okay, that's not a lot.
No.
Not a lot at all. And you got 12 to 15 stolen vehicles this year out of 3,600 people.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So we're catching stolen vehicles. We're seizing guns, drugs, money. Well, the DPS stepped in. We put a cry out. DPS said, okay, look, here's what we're going to do. They sent a bunch of troopers down here. So there's probably 30 or 40 troopers in the county at any given time. They're catching alien smuggling left and right. Every day on the radio, there's pursuits. Every day I'm hearing it. But the pursuits, the smuggling cases my deputies are catching hasn't changed. It's still X number per month. Plus, on top of what DPS is catching. So DPS's presence, we're catching them, but our totals haven't dropped because we're still catching the same number. So how much of it is out there? So that leads me to believe that there's more going on than we're actually seeing. Talking to the ranchers, my son-in-law, talking to some of the other ranchers, day in, day out, fences are being cut, which creates a problem. If you're trying to raise livestock, you can't absorb that financial loss having to repair your fence every 2 or 3 months and make a profit. So we know there's more people out there that we're not seeing. So we came up with a plan, myself, the county attorney, the county judge, the commissioners. According to the Texas Constitution, I can deputize people to help. So we reached out. We're looking at prior law enforcement, people that still have a license, active license, but
an active license as a law enforcement?
As a law enforcement officer.
Okay.
So they may have other jobs right now, working out the air base, or a school teacher, or retired, that we can bring in to help supplement some of the things. Like over the weekend, we had the Frontier Christmas, the big Christmas party that we have every year. We can use.
Okay.
There's the number one. She runs this whole operation.
Okay, there we go. There's the number one.
There she is.
Say hello. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
We use them in those capacities to help with crowd control and just to be seen. That way the full-time deputies can do full-time deputy jobs. We've got, I think, 3 of them sworn in so far, and just finding times when we're going to need them, Christmas holidays, a parade, something where I can utilize them, but I can keep the deputies in the field doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So you made that determination live basically 6 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got 10 people deputized right now?
I've
or
got
did you
3.
guys pull back? Okay, so
I had
you
to
got
pull back
3.
a little bit.
Okay, why'd you have to pull back, Sheriff?
Because I'm looking, the top priority is finding people that actually live within the county that could be called in at a
Is that
moment's
part of
notice.
the legal thing within the Constitution that they have to be Kinney County residents?
They don't have to be Kinney County
Okay,
residents.
you just you prefer?
I would prefer, that way they can be here on a moment's notice.
Okay.
I'd call them at 2 o'clock in the morning, they'll be here in 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah, it's a big, Texas is big.
Yes,
Yeah.
versus, say, they live in another town. The closest town is Del Rio. That's a 45-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they still have to get up. They have to get dressed. They have to fight the traffic out there at that road construction to get here.
Okay.
So I'm looking first priority is people that live here. Second priority, if I don't find what I'm looking for, I can expand out a little bit.
Okay. So you said you got 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What are they doing? What is their kind of caseload or workload look like? Tell me about these 3 people that we've deputized here in Kinney County.
What they'll do is basically ride-alongs. They have to have X number of hours per year. They have to keep up with their training. But if we can keep them focused while they're doing their other jobs to concentrate on this a little bit, I get a better rounded deputy. One of them is actually a paramedic. So that, to me, that's a win-win situation. Another one is he's a licensed jailer also. So push comes to shove, I can use him on occasion. And things like that. I'm looking through the resume. What can they bring to the table? If I could find some that, another paramedic, or find one that maybe a brain surgeon, we can do some work on some of these people around here.
Okay, so are you looking for them, or are they volunteering? Like, how's this happen?
I've got a lot of volunteers.
Wow.
A ton of volunteers. But the problem is, I'm getting calls from Tennessee, Kentucky, Arizona, Michigan. They want to come down here and help. But where are they going to stay? We don't have that much room. I certainly don't have the budget to put them up somewhere, and they don't have the means to come down here and stay for a month. So they want to volunteer. The American people are tired. They want something done, and we just have to be at the tip of the spear. So they're calling, they're helping. We've gotten over $20,000 in donations from people that want to help in some capacity, and that's one of the easiest ways. Okay, well, certain items that the county can't afford because of our small tax base, $20,000 goes a long way here.
Yeah. Well, and you were talking about, like, these people have volunteered and they want to help, and the American people are fed up. Do you guys have some militia groups that have formed too? Because that's what people are doing. They are fed up, and so they are taking matters into their own hands to protect each other. So, are you seeing that in Kinney County as well?
We've seen a few of them come through here.
Okay.
Right now, there's one group that they kind of float in and out, but they're on private property, and they're working for the landowner.
Okay, so they'll, like a rancher, because these ranchers, for people that are watching, they don't really understand. I mean, we are flying over some ranches, and I'm like, is this all one ranch? I mean, some are 40 acres, 400 acres. I mean, Texas has a lot of land.
A lot of land.
And the ranchers have a lot of acreage to cover.
Right.
And they've got cameras, and you're really relying on your ranchers and civilians, too.
That's our intel. The ranchers, I'm getting ready to hire a guy that's going to help stay in contact with these ranchers so we know exactly what we're doing, or what they're seeing, because as a rancher, like my son-in-law, they're raising cattle. So he's got to, from time to time, one of the workers will go out and they'll run the fence lights to make sure everything's up. And you do that once every 2, 3, 4 months. Now you got to do it on a weekly basis.
Weekly?
Because he's had so many holes cut in his fence that he's got to do it every week. They've spent over close to $100,000 just that year alone repairing fence. You can't absorb that loss as a businessman for very long. One of the other ranchers, a lot of his windmill, a lot of his mills used to be windmills. Now there are a bunch of solar panels out there to pumping and everything. With the illegal aliens to walk through, they saw the power, so they tried to charge their phones off of it, shorted the whole system out. So there's almost $10,000, somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 that he's got to pay out of pocket to get his water supply fixed so he can water his animals.
Oh my gosh.
You can't afford a loss like that forever.
No. Well, and tell me if this is correct, because I've heard too that some ranchers and some people living in border counties have started to actually strap their pistol on their hip as they're going out to water their crops or give their animals food, and that's not their daily life, right? Texans, yes, a lot of them are packing, but that's not their daily life to go out and feed their animals with a pistol on their hip. Is that happening here as well?
We're hearing it.
Okay.
More and more are carrying pistols because there's been a few residents here that the aliens have showed up and they're demanding things. Well, give us water, give us food, give us a ride. No, get off my property. So,
what rights do civilians have when this happens in Kinney County and they're trespassing and these people are demanding these kinds of things? What rights do civilians have, or are they able to do in Texas to protect themselves?
Well, of course, they're on their own property. As long as they're on their property and they can carry a gun, they can have it on their hip, they can carry a rifle, whatever the case may be, to protect themselves. Now, can they go out and just say, hey, they're on my property and shoot them? No. That's not how it works. If they feel threatened, well, then they have the right to defend themselves. They can call us. We'll try to pick them up if we can. Us and DPS get out there, try to get these people picked up and file criminal trespassing charges on them, like Brent Smith been doing. Right now, I couldn't even tell you how many cases have been filed. It's close to 2,000.
That's 2,000 at least.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you guys were dealing with like 12 or something in the past, like
a
very normal, small kind of caseloads, and now you're already at 2,000.
Well, to kind of give you an example, last year, we'll go back to last year, we probably filed maybe 25, 30 misdemeanor cases in county court.
Okay.
So for this year, it's over 2,000. It's a huge increase. One attorney, one prosecutor, and a handful of assistants can't handle that many people.
In a jail?
In a jail.
That's
My jail holds 14 people.
Yeah, he was saying you guys have to get them, they go to the other areas.
Yeah. And my jail holds 14, I've got 13 right now.
13?
Well, they're a combination for narcotics or outstanding warrants.
Are they civilians or are they immigrants?
Everyone I have here is civilians or U.S. citizens.
Oh, they are? Okay. Because when the migrants come in, usually what Brent was saying is they get taken to another facility, right? They
get booked in Valverde and they get sent to Briscoe.
Okay.
On the felony side, everything's handled out of Del Rio with the 63rd Judicial District. Last year, we may have filed maybe 300 felony charges. We're a very small county. This year, it's over 400 so far.
Wow. How does that make you feel? And our citizens in this area, do they feel safe?
Overall, I think they feel very safe.
Okay.
Do I worry about, because, small community, people walk to and from school, the kids go to school, some kids live 3 or 4 blocks from school and they walk by themselves. I don't worry about them. Okay. I mean, the worry is there, but I'm not overly worried that something's going to happen.
Okay.
Is it Mayberry? On one side of the coin, yes, it is Mayberry. Everybody knows everybody. You walk into the grocery store, you see everybody, you see friends, family, relatives. But there is a dark side. And 90% of that is traveling around the city and around Fort Clark Springs. Mm-hmm. And that's the part where the vehicles are being stolen, houses are being broken into, and things like that. The fences being damaged, animals being let loose or escaping or even being killed for them to eat.
Gotcha. So from what I understand with this deputizing situation that you guys were going through in April or 6 weeks ago when you put out that notice that this is what we're going to do, there was kind of some pushback, the government kind of going, let's pull back a little because there's these laws too and there's all these nuances. So they kind of threw some money at you guys. So they would help you out on a different side.
It wasn't because of that.
Okay, so they weren't necessarily going against the fact that you were going to deputize people.
No.
They didn't try to stop you from doing that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't say, well, if you don't do that, we'll give you a bunch of money. No, that didn't happen.
Okay.
Where the pushback came was the Constitution says one thing, the Occupational Code says something else, but the Code of Criminal Procedures says something completely different. Okay. So 2 got updated and 1 didn't. So there's a little bit of miscommunication in the laws because there's so many. It's just something that the Attorney General is going to have to work out with the legislature.
Okay.
So to protect everybody, to protect me, to protect the state, and to protect the county, we've got to wait until that gets straightened out before I go out and find you somewhere. Hey, you're a deputy.
Yeah, right.
So we got to get that straightened out. So, but we are looking at some law enforcement to come in and that we can.
And you don't have a cap on how many you could have, do you?
No, well,
you're just starting with 10.
We're starting with 10. That was the agreement with the commissioner's court.
Okay.
We'll get 10, and we'll kind of see how it goes. If we need more, fine. If not, we can cut it back.
Okay.
And that's one thing I have to tell them up front. I may carry your commission for 6 months or 6 years. We don't know.
Okay.
But we're just going to take it day at a time, month at a time, see where it goes.
Okay. I mean, Sheriff Coe, I we've obviously known each other from afar kind of for quite a while. And this issue, I mean, I came down here in August because Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez was like, people don't know that this is a situation. You know, everybody thinks what's going on at the border, immigration happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Right.
This is not your normal situation. That's what people need to understand. It's funny to me. Someone goes, she's leading the conversation. She's a bleeding heart and trying to make this look like it's not a situation. I'm here because we got a situation on our hands.
We do have a situation. I was with the Border Patrol for 30 years. And every time there was an election, whether it be a presidential election or midterm elections, there was always the talk of, well, we're going to push for amnesty, or we're going to push for immigration reform. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. So we've always seen, especially around presidential elections, there's going to be an increase in traffic because they think if they're here by a certain time, they'll be granted amnesty. Mm-hmm. And we saw it during Reagan, we saw it during Bush, the Clinton administration, on and on. Even just before Trump took office, there was a push. Mm-hmm. And after Trump, now what the president says and what gets translated and passed on in South America and Central America and Mexico, something completely different. Mm-hmm. So the smugglers, the cartels, all those the powers that be on that side of the coin, use that to their advantage. Mm-hmm. Now, did Biden actually stand up on a podium and tell the world, come in, we're going to accept everybody? No. But he did kind of mention that if they come, we will welcome you.
The kind of open border campaign policies kind of seeped over into South America.
So what they told him down there was, oh, Joe Biden says you can come. Then there's somebody put it out there that, well, I think we need to give $450,000 per person for anybody that's family was split up because the parents got deported to Mexico. Now we're hearing from overseas, Middle East, Africa, that they think that once they set foot on American soil, there's a guy there with a check. Okay, here's $450,000 for you. And that's the way it's being translated. Mm-hmm. So it's lost in translation, for lack of a better phrase. Mm-hmm. So they're coming. Now, one thing that has always been in the back of my mind was they say, well, you just don't like the Mexican people, or Mexico this, Mexico that, Central America. No. The Mexican people are great people. I mean, they've got a great heritage. I mean, come on. The Aztecs came up with the concept of zero when nobody else did. They've got a rich culture. They've got a great history. It's the government. What government tells their people to leave? I'll go someplace else, but send the money home.
In all of those countries, there's 160 nationalities that CBP has recorded this year.
Yeah, and so far, Dario Sector's caught people representing 42 of those countries in the past couple of weeks.
Uzbekistan in Yuma.
Yeah. Well, they caught 4 from someplace just north of Afghanistan the other day here.
Mm-hmm. And we've got Ghana, we've got Nigeria. Mm-hmm. I was walking with caravans, and they were saying the same thing. And I said, but our border's closed. Kamala Harris said, don't come. And they said, we think Joe Biden will honor his promise of asylum, and he'll change his mind by the time we get there. We'll get in. And I said, you have no fear that you won't get in. They said, none. We know that he's a good man. Well, and they said that these other countries didn't care for them, take care of them, and they said it must be different in the U.S.
But here's the question. When they say, we'll get to America, they'll take care of us, what do they mean? That they're going to live off the taxpayer? Do they think they're going to get up here and get a free house, free food, free everything? Or are they coming up here to actually try to assimilate into the country and become a productive member of society?
Then that might be some and some, right? Like we don't know, because there are some I've talked to that will work anywhere. We speak English. We're here. A lot of Venezuelans, they are professionals, talk to lawyers. They want to be in America. They know our cultures. I have talked to a lot of people like that. Then there's some that are like, we don't even know what state we're going to. We don't care.
We just want to
be. They don't even know that they are different states. I said, where are you going in the United States? And they said, the U.S. And I said, yeah, but there's 50 of us. Where? And they just kind of stared at me.
Yeah, they don't.
They were carrying the flag with no stars, saying that it is for everybody, you know? So being a Texan and being someone that has worked your entire career to protect our borders and to protect your community, how do you feel right now, Sheriff, sitting in that chair and with all of this paperwork around you and all the calls you're getting and the frustration that you guys are dealing with? How are you feeling about this situation in 2021?
I mean, as far as feeling frustrated, feeling overwhelmed, feeling...
I guess, well, those are your words, not mine. So I suppose you can elaborate on any of that.
Are we overwhelmed? Yes, but we're taking it minute by minute, day by day. And what's one thing I tell the deputies, and when I was with the border, I told the guys, I said, at the end of the day, when you walk out that door, leave it here. Don't take it home. Don't complain. Don't the paperwork this, paperwork that, or I didn't get to this, didn't get to that. Walk out that door, go home, hang out with the kids, watch a movie, watch cartoons. When you come back to work, when you walk in that door, leave your home life there, pick up your work life, and we'll go. And that always works for me. I try. Well, I'm more of a do as I say, not as I do, because
you're an adrenaline junkie like me. You're out. We were just talking about that when I came in here. We were like, we got to keep going. We're better when we're busy. So we were talking about the pushes and stuff in these different administrations. But then we saw these pushes with these policies being reinstated. Everyone even on here is going, but MPP is back in place. But this is in place. This is in place.
MPP is back in place. However, Mexico will not accept anybody back that doesn't speak Spanish. And right now there's only one port of entry that they can be returned through, up to 30 a day. So is it in place? Yes. Is it in place? No.
It's 30 people within, you guys have 6 facilities or something within the Del Rio sector, isn't it?
From El Paso to McAllen, there's 27 ports of entry, but there's only 7 that are going to be allowed to do this. So they've cut it by, 60%. But no, we can only do 30 a day nationwide. We can only do this many. We can only do this many. So, is it there? Yes, it is. But there's so many holes in it that might as well not be there.
So does it feel like that's more like lip service? Like it just something needed to happen? And because the American people think it's in place, a lot of them, and it's helping. Yeah, mitigating this.
There's a few of the conservative news networks, if you'll look them up, they'll tell you how it's working. The mainstream media is saying, "Oh, MPP is back in place. Don't worry."
But then we got 200 people walking through the city of Yuma that can't get apprehended because there's not enough border agents. So, are you guys seeing the residual impacts too of having not enough border agents in this area? I mean, this isn't right on the border, right? So, do you have ICE agents that are out here, or what are you guys doing?
No, I think we're the only county in the state of Texas that meets up to the border that doesn't have a port of entry.
Really?
I've got 16 miles of border with Mexico, but we're 20 miles from it.
Yes.
So the people in town don't see exactly what's going on, which brings up another issue. The southern border from California to McAllen, we're under siege.
But will you repeat that?
We're under siege.
Okay.
It's an invasion. When 13,000 people show up in one spot, it's an invasion. So we've got this going on here, and I'm going to use Chicago for various reasons, but I'm a Cubs fan. Love the Cubs. They have every weekend, you come in, you log on, you check on the news, 27 people shot, 12 killed in Chicago over the weekend. The last thing that's on the people's mind in Chicago is what's going on down here. The people down here, we see about it on the news, but we're focused on this. So each part of the country is literally focused on something else. Is that by design? I don't know. But it happens. Now, what affects the shootings in Chicago has no impact on what happens down here. But what happens down here will have an impact in Dallas, Oklahoma City, Chicago. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but at some point it will. So we need to kind of focus down here and get people involved. Let them come look. And I had a reporter come in one day and she was accusing me of all this stuff. I said, whoa, wait, let's back up a minute. I said, rest of the day is yours. I loaded her up in the truck and we went south. And I showed her what was going on down there and what the border actually looked like versus where she had seen the ports of entry and the riots and this and that. So this is the border. Well, where's all the people? It's wide open. Look at it. It's beautiful. But the thing that the president doesn't understand and the people in Washington even under Trump, we're going to build a wall. Thing is, 99% of the border is private property. If the landowner says no, well then it's no, because he still has to make a living. That's part of his. I mean, how would you feel if they came to your house and said, you know what, we don't like what's going on here. We're going to build a 10-foot wall right in your backyard. I bought this place because of the view, or I bought it because of the cattle, or bought it because of the honey.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand that wall will go through a lot of people's. There's a real, because people live on the river.
They do.
It's beautiful. So tell me what you feel about the wall. A lot of people love to hear how law enforcement feel and didn't feel about the wall construction. So do you think it would have been something helpful, or do you think it was a waste?
Well, depending on where it is. I mean, I've been to Arizona, I've been to California, but we'll use Texas for an example. There's places in Texas where you don't need a wall because there's no place to cross. So you really don't need it there.
Especially out on the end there in Del
Yeah,
Rio.
you get out there in the Sanderson area out there.
Valverde County?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
West Valverde. It's all
cliff
rock.
is its own wall.
So you've got natural barriers. Now in the cities, the whole idea of putting a wall up, back when I was in Washington in 06, the plan was we're going to build the wall close to the cities. It'll push them outside the city where we have a better chance of making the apprehensions. Well,
we did see that. The Bush Wall is there in like the Del Rio area, right? So that was the purpose of something like that. It was like a 2-mile stretch to make people go around it.
Right.
Okay.
Because if you've noticed, a lot of the cities butt right up next to the river.
Yes.
Except Del Rio. Del Rio, the city limits does, but the city itself is still a mile from town.
Yeah.
But like Laredo, El Paso, McAllen, they're right on the border. You get to Arizona, and since there's no river, there's a fence here, a neighbor here, and here's the border. So the wall serves a purpose. But you get into some of the rural parts of the country, of the state, you can use, the technology has got it. I mean, I don't know how it's growing faster than I can keep track of. I'm having a hard time using an iPhone. But with modern technology and cooperation with landowners, cameras, drones are a huge success. We were testing a drone a couple of weeks ago just to see what it would do at night. We found 20.
Because it has a night vision option.
It had a thermal on it.
You found 20 people walking around.
I mean, in less than an hour. Wow. We just sent it up to see what it looked like at night, how far out we could send it, how high we could go. This company is showing us everything. Yeah, just a test. It flies, and what do we see? The guy goes, hold on, what's that? It was 20 people. So we get them rounded up, but it's less than an hour. So what else is out there that we're not seeing? But I wasn't a big believer in drones. I thought, well, I've seen drones. I know a couple of kids that have drones. What can they do? Well, after seeing that, I was like, oh, yeah, we need drones.
Very interesting. My favorite comment today, Sheriff, is that this one person says, it sounds like you're for these illegal immigrants coming in. That could not be further from the truth. You are for protecting your community, number one.
My community, put it this way, Kinney County, Valverde County, Edwards County. Back when I grew up in Del Rio, when I was a kid, even up until the mid-'80s, this part of the country ruled the world in wool and mohair. I mean, we thrived on. I mean, this was the mecca of people came in from Italy, Spain to judge our wool and mohair and to purchase stuff for overseas shipments. Now that went away. Very, very few people were raising sheep and goats. Well, after that, of course, we had Alamo Village here, the Alamo, Lonesome Dove, Bad Girls, 150 some odd movies were filmed here.
In Kinney County?
In Kinney County.
Really?
That industry's gone away. All we have now is our ranches and exotic hunting. If we lose that, we lose the county. If the ranchers can't afford to do what they do with their sheep and cattle because of the damages and the spiraling cost of fencing supplies and wells and losing animals and having to hire extra people to patrol the fence lines, cattle prices aren't going up. Everything else is. Fuel, vehicles, fencing, all of that is going up. You can't sustain a loss like that forever and still stay in business. So if they have to sell and move, and we're talking people that have been on some of these places for generations, what happens to the property? Who comes in and buys it? The cartels, the Chinese, don't know. Worse off, people from California. But who's going to buy the property? If we lose that tax base, we only have one grocery store. We only have one gas station, 5 or 6 restaurants. If those close, then what happens? So that's why we're pushing so hard to at least, if nothing else, slow them down and push it elsewhere. But that's my biggest concern is, am I anti-immigration? No. My in-laws are immigrants. My wife is first-generation American citizen. And they travel back and forth. Great people. But we have to protect what's here. If they want to come in the legal way, by all means, apply. And that's where some things need to change, because I've talked to a few people that it takes 10, 15, 18 years to get all the documents together, to get into the country, to get everything lined up to become a United States citizen. If we can speed that up, I think we'd be much better off. And the other thing that we're seeing years back, a group of illegal aliens would walk up to a rancher, very respectful, hands calloused, skin from working outside. I mean, they were sunburned, they were calloused. I mean, they were just hard-working people. And they were very respectful. We're headed to Austin. Can you give us some water, or even a day's work, or whatever? Let us rest. They would actually ask permission. And people, by all means, here, have some water. They'd feed them, and they'd carry on. Now they're coming up demanding. You will give us water. You will give us food.
What changed?
The attitude of the people.
Well, where is that coming from?
Same thing with some of the generation we have here in the country. They feel entitled.
That's what they're hearing, kind of like what you were saying. They see the 450,000. They're seeing that, and then maybe they pay the cartel, like what we saw in Del Rio. They're like, well, we just paid $10,000 to get in here. You got to help me now. Like that was a very real thing that happened.
And some of the ones we catch, their hands are softer than mine. I sit behind a desk. But before you talk to them, encounter them, shake their, they're very respectful. Shake their hands were calloused, their eyes were squinting. You could tell where they'd been working in the sun. Although now it's a whole different class, because in any given year, 1, maybe 2 deaths would find out in the brush because of heat, exposure, heart attack, whatever. The other day we had one. We're up to 16.
16 deaths
since April.
Since April.
Yeah.
What year to date then? Like what? So
first part of April to, I think, about a week ago was when we had our last one.
Wow.
Yeah, huge increase.
16 deaths, and you usually have 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
No way. Now what kind? I mean that because we saw that in Brooks County.
Brooks County is
bad.
Yeah.
Bad. That's where the mobile morgue is. You guys. You guys remember that? I went inside of that. So what kind of hit is 16 deaths? Because those have implications on counties. And that because deaths in your county, you assume that responsibility.
Well, we assume that responsibility. Well. But the other question is, if we have 16 deaths, since we had that big storm, how many haven't we found yet? How many are going to happen? But how many people are coming through here to have that many deaths? More than we know. So
what needs to happen here, man? Like, what's the easy fix? What's the plan?
There is no easy fix. The fix needs to be how much. I don't know how much money we send to Mexico, but it never gets filtered down to where it's supposed to be. I mean, when Vicente Fox was president, he claimed that he was just, he came up through the ranks, this, that, and the other. All of a sudden, he's no longer president. He buys an island in the Caribbean. Come on. You don't make that kind of money doing president. But it's no different than some of them here. I mean, come on, Nancy Pelosi. She just bought a $24 million mansion on the beach in Florida, and she says that the polar ice caps are melting and Florida's going to be underwater in the next 5 years.
Yeah. So there's no easy fix. It will continue to be a political football, and these people will continue to be used as currency.
Exactly.
And it's a perpetual cycle of abuse. Yeah. And a lot of people, and our president himself has denied that these governments are all complicit in this abuse, because it is following word of mouth, and it is getting bigger because of what's happening and the ease of getting in. Right. We have people in the States calling people in these countries. Your friends, right? People have friends in other countries.
Exactly.
So someone wants to come in from Venezuela, and this is a true story. They said, well, I have a friend in Florida. They told me, come now. It's easier now. Come now. And they told them exactly how to do it. We have U.S. citizens guiding people into the country right now.
And when reporters are going down to the border and filming some of this stuff, and there's some that have gone across the border entry to watch it from the Mexican side, and they're finding hundreds of passports and documents and identification cards.
I have all of that. I've found all of that too.
And
I've reported on that too. It's crazy.
So when they drop their passport that says they're Joe Blow, they drop it on the ground. But when they come over here and get arrested, now they're John Doe versus Fred Doe, or whatever. Change their name, date of birth. How do we know?
You don't. And Border Patrol and I actually just posted about that too, Sheriff. Border Patrol just admitted we are not able to identify them. We are not. They do not have any documentation. Mm-hmm. We do not have a fingerprint. They are not in any system. So we do not know. We cannot properly vet anyone. Yeah. And we don't. What's wild to me, and I didn't know this, even though we work very closely, and as when I say we work, I mean give money to the Triangle countries, we have no idea what is in their databases. Mm-hmm. And none in Mexico. Some in Mexico a little bit. We have some, I know, with like MS-13. Like I know we have some communication there with the 18th Street gangs. But when it comes down to Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, we have no idea. Clue. How is that possible if we, and that's what I was talking to Brent about. We were like, maybe that's one way to, if we can get access to criminal databases and share that kind of information, maybe that would be helpful. Because again, John Doe now is running amok. And he's in Oklahoma or in Chicago or in a neighborhood near you.
Right, we don't know who he is or what he is.
Have no criminal history on these people unless there's an identifying tattoo or something.
Even then, it's still
their word against right.
Yeah.
Like
back in the 80s when all the Cubans during the Mario boat lift, the Cubans were showing up. We were seeing them. They had the prison tattoos. They had the teardrops and everything. Have you ever been in prison? Nope.
And that was enough.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
We can't prove, we can't disprove. And then Fidel Castro wouldn't allow them back in the country. There's no agreement between the State Department and Cuba to return their people. He said, once you leave, you're done.
Wow.
So, but talking about the deaths, it's easy to say, well, we had 16 deaths. And everybody said, wow, that's a lot of people. But there's the human side of it. We've got, most of them we can identify, but we have some that we can't. So, there's a family in Mexico or Honduras, wherever, missing a family member. Mm-hmm. There's people on this side missing a family member. Mm-hmm. They'll never know where he is. Oh. So that's rough. There's no sense of closure. That's that side of the coin.
Sorry, just really quick, because I got to spell everything out for everybody. The reason why you're saying that is these people will be out in the elements, you guys, birds, vultures, they go to them, right? Brooks County Sheriff said we consider it a win when they still have their eyes and fingerprints. Like, you guys can't identify them sometimes because of where you find them and how much time they've been out there.
And sometimes they have their ID with them, sometimes they don't.
Okay.
So that's that side of the coin. Mm-hmm. Now, you go to San Antonio, you go to Dallas, Fort Worth, some of the bigger cities where there's murders and stuff. A lot of street cops will see 2, 3, 4 murders in their career, or work up to 2 or 3 more. I've got 6 full-time deputies. 16 deaths means everybody's going to see, if you at the average, everybody's going to see 3, but it's not always 3. They'll see 5, 6. One person, one deputy may be at the wrong place at the wrong time and see the majority of them. We had one that was run over by a train. One of my deputies had to go out there, and they're young, they're 25, 26 years old, and they're seeing this, and they're going to see more of it as long as they're employed here. Mm-hmm. And they have to take that home. Mm-hmm. And they've got kids. And it may not hit them today, it may not hit them tomorrow, but sometime 2 years from now, it may trigger that PTSD. But
it's not necessarily what you guys signed up for.
No. Mm-hmm. I mean, we signed up for it knowing that we could possibly see it. But, I mean, old fart like me, I'm expected to have seen, a few here and there. But when I've got a deputy that's 25 years old and they've handled 8 deaths in the past 2 years, 10 deaths, that's a little much.
And I mean, you talk about these people that are dying, and the president's argument is kind of here, this situation, they must be so desperate to go through this. What do you say about that? What do you say about these families that are willing to put themselves through that and their kids through that and to try to make this trek and to put themselves at risk and do this illegally?
They say, they're desperate. Are they really desperate, or are they just trying to make a better life? Not necessarily the life they had was bad or good, but are they really trying to? Now, how much of it is they knew they were sick when they were trying to come? How much of it is the smugglers are pushing them harder than they need to? Or, somebody gets sick, they just, somebody gets bad water or starts feeling bad because of the heat, they just leave them behind. Now, we've had a few that the guy was sick, he was dying, his friends stayed with him knowing that they were going to be picked up.
That's very unusual.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you've got to, those two guys that stayed, you've got to commend them for staying with their friend until he passed. But out there, sometimes they just leave him behind. And so now you've got a guy, male, female, out there sick, dying alone in an unknown country, and God knows they don't know where they are. So that's tough. But it also takes a toll on my guys. Because
and this whole thing it's so many layers, and like you said, there's no easy fix. We understand the human side of this, but at the end of the day, your job, Sheriff, is to protect your county.
Protect the county. And my deputies they all carry a case of soda water in the back of their trucks. And when they pull up on a scene, there's 5 or 6 that are sitting there waiting to be transported or whatever. The first thing they do is they break out the water. And that's the human side. And they're being taken advantage of. There was an article that came out of Georgia the other day talking about a certain farm that the employees, even though they didn't have the proper tools, they were making them dig by hand. When they were pulling the onions, they weren't running the machinery. They were having them out there on their hands and knees, picking onions, dropping them in a bucket, making 20 cents a bucket.
Oh, wow.
And several of them have died because of heat exposure. Nope, you can't have water yet. You can eat, drink at lunchtime, but other than that, no water, no breaks, no nothing. You're picking onions barehanded.
Wow.
So, but you were talking about the databases. Now, granted, I don't really watch a whole lot of TV, but I do watch some, and shows like NCIS, the CIS, and Law and Order. Well, they solved that murder real quick. They have 60 minutes to do it. You take out the commercials, they got 44 minutes to do it, and it always succeeds. They have databases. He can get NCIS. They can get on a naval ship and they can go somewhere and they can come in. They can pick up the guy's picture when he was 4 years old in kindergarten. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Is the technology there? Oh, I'm sure the CIA's got something. They're probably listening to us right now. But a law enforcement agency this size, we don't have that capability.
Right.
The Texas Department of Public Safety doesn't have that capability. And that's part of the frustration. Well, on TV, they did it this way.
I know.
That just doesn't happen.
They should be able to figure it out, right? They should be able to crack that. Yeah, but we honestly don't know who these people are.
Right. We have no clue. And we will never know.
One.
No.
And that's what I don't think people understand is especially if they're not in any database in their home country. I'm right. I don't have a criminal history.
Right.
So if I went somewhere else, you don't know who I am, right? So same.
Oh.
If they're not known criminals, and maybe even if they are, we would never know.
No, we'd never know.
It's wild, and it's so hard to process that. That is a really, really tough reality in this situation right now. And I kind of knew that, but to learn that from CBP yesterday out of their mouth, and then to hear it from you again today, that we really have no way to know who these people are, is frightening. And that's, no one can deny that.
And with some of the technology we have, if we're unsure, we think this guy might be lying to us about who he is, we can run him up to the Border Patrol station. They have the technology where we can roll their prints, and it'll tell us if they're in their system. Or tell
and
us
if they've been here before.
Right.
But they have to have made it over here already once and left a mark.
But like you and me, if I take you up there and run you, there's nothing there. So not everybody's fingerprints is on file.
I know.
Not everybody's picture is on file. So if I've never ever been arrested anywhere before, my fingerprints aren't going to come up. But mine will, because I'm in law enforcement. I have to be fingerprinted. It has to show up somewhere. But unless you've never gotten a passport, you've never done this, you've stayed in your hometown of Brackettville, Texas, your whole life, you've never been, your fingerprints aren't going to come up anywhere. Even if you commit a murder and we lift your prints off the glass, if you're not in the system, we don't know who you are.
It doesn't matter. So do you think, we know Governor Abbott has kind of expanded Operation Lone Star a little bit. We've seen the boats. I'm going to go try to check out of the point of entry here at Eagle Pass. We've seen, the military-style boats lining the Rio, the shipping containers. Do you think what he has been doing with Operation Lone Star has helped? Has it mitigated this at all? What do you feel within? That's fairly recent.
It's fairly recent. A lot of it's experimental. The state of Texas has never done this before. We've never done this before. So everything we do, there's going to be days that we take 2 steps forward and we can hold the line. We're going to take 2 steps forward, then we're going to have to back up a step or 2, just until we get the system refined. Until we get all the working parts together into the proper sequence, then we can gain control of it. And I think Texas has the capability of it. But we have to learn, A, we don't have all the answers. B, we have to learn to play well with each other. We can't be arguing back and forth, well, we're going to do this, well, we can do that.
Same team, man.
We need to be on the same team. Now, do we all have different ideas? Yeah. If there's some that are we think we can do, let's try it. If it doesn't work, well, let's go to plan B, then plan C. But we always need to have a backup plan. Whether we're at plan E, we still need to be planned back for H and I and J. So but like I said, each county has the same issue, but we have different issues. So you can't take one paintbrush and just write from El Paso to McAllen.
Or from San Diego to Brownsville.
Right. We have to take it step by step. Start here and move out. Back in 2005, Border Patrol started what they called Operation Streamline.
Okay.
It started in Eagle Pass. We saw an influx of OTMs back then.
OTM.
Other than Mexican, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, anything other than Mexico.
Okay.
So we see all these influx, especially in Eagle Pass. Well, we came up with a plan that anything that's apprehended at this spot that crossed through here, we're going to prosecute it. And they prosecuted everything that was caught. Well, first, everything that's caught on Tuesday, we're going to prosecute. Then they expanded it to Wednesday, Thursday, then to Friday. Then we took it up to the next landing. Then it just spread. Well, once they knew they were going to get prosecuted for crossing here, they moved here. So we moved it to here, but included this. And we just kept moving it all the way from Carrizo Springs all the way out past Comstock. Anything that was caught in the Del Rio sector, regardless, was prosecuted for illegal entry at USC 1325. It dropped the number of crossings. It dropped the apprehensions from, say, I think back at the time we were probably doing 1,100 a month, down to about 100 a month. Because they knew they were going to go to jail and they were going to get anywhere from,
We need to get that. We're very chill on the live.
It cut it because they knew they were going to go to jail from anywhere from 10 to 180 days, depending on their criminal history.
Okay.
So it worked. Laredo adopted it, then it adopted in McAllen, and it just kind of spread. Well,
that's not happening.
Not happening anymore.
What happened to it?
Changes have been administered. We're talking 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago. So there's been changes in the administration. There've been changes in chiefs. There've been changes in philosophies. So it was still there when I retired, but it's not. So that's what we're trying to do here, just in Kinney County. Anything we catch, we try to prosecute it to hopefully that it will. I hate to say it, but it will push it back to Val Verde or back down to Maverick County. Once we get control here, then we can expand to Val Verde, Maverick, and do the same thing.
And can you explain a little bit, this will be just kind of, we'll wrap this up here so you can get back to work. Thank you for your time. Can you explain a little bit what the prosecution side is within Operation Lone Star? It's something that you guys have to sign up for. Brent was explaining. You have to agree that this is what you're doing, and other counties haven't gotten on board yet.
We were kind of the focus county on this.
Okay.
We had to agree that we're going to prosecute. We're going to send them to the processing center in Del Rio. Then they would be transported to the Briscoe unit, and that Brent, being the county attorney, would file the complaints, would follow certain guidelines. It went from a Class B misdemeanor to a Class A misdemeanor because the governor's emergency declaration, and there's certain things that we have to do as prosecutors. Well, now the defense, and I truly
you gotta start working, Sheriff. Goodness. Okay.
I truly understand the judicial system. The prosecutor has their job, the law enforcement has theirs, and the defense attorney has their job. Any client, he's innocent until proven guilty. He's entitled to a good defense, but some of these defense attorneys are trying to advance their agenda because they're totally against this. So they're doing everything they can to try to get their clients either A, the charges dropped, or B, released on a personal recognizance bond. Now I understand. Now a defense attorney, I've known several. I've known some that went from defense to prosecution back to defense, and it's all part of the game. But they're entitled to a good defense to help them make sure that they're not being railroaded, make sure that the evidence is there, but they're also part of the whole working mechanism. And a lot of defense attorneys don't want to play with the prosecutors. A lot of prosecutors don't want to play with the defense. But it's kind of like divorce attorneys. You go into court, you're getting a divorce, and you would expect the two attorneys to hate each other. But after the divorce,
They're hanging out.
yeah, they're hanging out. They're having dinner too. Oh yeah, we go to parties all the time. Yeah, her husband's married to my sister, and blah 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 blah. And but that's not the way it is. And I learned that a long time ago. That prosecutors and defense attorneys, a lot of times they have lunch together because they're not even talking business. They're just friends. So
Between a rock and a hard place, you guys are. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I mean, we're still dealing with issues. Things have come in. You've had a little mitigation as far as getting things under control, but it's still happening. You guys are still needing help, still needing resources. Still would probably prefer the national emergency that your governor was going after.
one thing that we've all agreed on that may help, we don't know, we can't say for sure, but if we would have the ability to declare the cartels as terrorist organizations, that may give us a little more weight when it goes to court.
That's interesting.
And these cartels, I don't know if they told you, but right now they're making, just the ones in our area, are making $25 to $30 million a week.
I didn't know that, but I mean, I knew that they were how much they were charging per head, but I didn't ever hear a figure like that.
But when you hear the price per head, we just paid $10,000. Okay, you don't have any money. You're in a third world country, barely making. Where are you getting the $10,000? Okay, when you get to your destination, you're going to owe us. Oh, you're going to rent from us too. So you owe me $10,000 plus rent, plus so.
And what I also was told is that they will basically like put a mortgage on their house in Mexico.
Hold on just a second.
I was going to say we can say goodbye.
Nello? Well, they hung up on me.
Okay, hey, we're going to let you go. Sheriff, oh my stars, you have given us so much information. Thank you. We're obviously going to be staying in touch. I'm going to jump off the live here, unless you have anything else pressing, and then we'll say goodbye.
God bless America, and thank you for taking an interest in this, being from Washington State.
Yeah, absolutely.